all this nonsense going around the internet about, women shouldn't do a cold plunge, and if they do, not as cold. Okay, maybe, but it's always attributed to increases in cortisol. Cold plunge reduces your cortisol levels. You can look at the data. The data show that it goes down. Adrenaline goes up, dopamine goes up, norepinephrine go up. So cortisol makes you alert. It makes you focused. And here's the key thing. Spiking your cortisol in that first hour after waking is so, so important, because that negative feedback loop mechanism kicks in about 3 hours after you've been awake. And that's why your cortisol then starts to drop late morning, early afternoon, later afternoon. And in the afternoon, if you have a bout of stress, no problem. You just have a little bit of cortisol bump, adrenaline bump, and it goes back down. If you don't spike your morning cortisol, what ends up happening is your cortisol system, essentially the HPA axis, is primed for stress events to give you big lasting increases in cortisol later, which make it hard to fall asleep, which make it hard to stay asleep, which are part of the reason why people have afternoon anxiety, all sorts of things. So you're actually supposed to feel a little stressed first thing in the morning. This is normal, this is healthy, and it sets you up for being more calm in the afternoon. Now, none of this is tied to whether or not you wake up at 8 a.m., 6 a.m., 4 a.m., or 11 a.m. This is not about chronotype. This is simply about the first hour after waking. But after about 90 minutes post-waking, that opportunity to spike your cortisol goes away. So if you can't view bright light in the form of sunlight, get it from artificial light. You would do well to compound that with hydration, which, by the way, for reasons that still aren't entirely understood, probably has to do with some electrolyte balance, et cetera. First thing in the day will also burst your cortisol. If you can't get in exercise right away, even just some skipping rope, jumping jacks, this kind of thing, getting the body into a high cortisol state early sets you up for being in a low cortisol state in the afternoon and evening. And any cortisol that you might trigger through a stress event will quickly subside, unless you what's called flatten your cortisol curve by not spiking in the morning. And by the way, the curve that I'm describing, high in the morning, lower into the afternoon, low, low, low as you get into the first hours of sleep, this is the healthy cortisol curve for men, women, kids, pregnant women. Postmenopausal women, it tends to flatten out a bit, and they need to do additional things to get that spike earlier. So this is when I hear all this stuff about don't cold plunge